Hey everyone, today we'll talk about dimensioning single views. When we do these, of course, what we want to do is we want to locate our features. Our feature dimensions will be the shorter dimensions. They'll be the ones closer to the object. AutoCAD is set up with all the settings that we need as far as the dimensioning rules, like how far off the object and extension line goes, the way the arrowheads are drawn, the style of font that we use, all that good stuff. So when we get started, we'll start with this one here. It's very simple. First thing we want to do is identify how many features we have. So like on this one, and when I talk features, if you start with a full rectangle, and every one of these, if you start with a full rectangle or a full circle, because of this one down here, what have you done to the object? What has to be mechanically done? So on this one, if we started with a full rectangle, we'd have to cut out this side and this side. Okay? So we've got two features. Some people would say that this is the only feature up top. Well, yes, that's a glass half full, glass half empty. Either one is fine. But we know how many parts we've got. We've got one part here, two parts here, three parts here that make up the whole. So we will leave one of those dimensions out, no matter what. Okay? When we look at this one, 1, 2, 3 across the top. So we will leave one of them out. Going down the side, we've actually got more than 3. We've got 1, which is the depth of this cut. We've got 2, which is the width of this. We've got 3, which is where it's located. And then we've got the gap between the two. So there are actually 4 here. Okay? So things like that we need to be aware of. Across the bottom, we've got 1 and then 2. Up and down the side, 1 and then 2. So we need to notice how many we've got. Remember, we don't want to repeat dimensions. We always want to only give it one time unless we absolutely have to for clarity, for some odd situation. So let's start in with this one. Number 1, make sure you're in the dimension layer. We'll pull this over so we can see it and scroll in so we can see what we're doing. Of course, here's your dimension tool. The linear dimension does horizontals and verticals. So if I click here, I'm going to start. I start on the right typically. You could start on the left, but I typically start on the right because of Western culture. Work to the right, work from top to the bottom, that type of stuff. So I'll click here and click here. Notice it will give me a horizontal dimension. I'll pull up. We need to be about 3/8 of an inch above this level. So somewhere right in here. And that's 1 1/4. Now I could give this dimension or this dimension. I like giving this one because that's the action that the builder is going to have to do. So again, I would click here, drag up. Where do I want it? I want it even with this one. So if I hover over the end of my arrowhead, it'll line them up because this is called a chain of dimensions. They're in line. It's a chain. There's the dimension I'm going to leave out. Okay? Now vertically with the feature, I want to work off of what's called a common corner. Well, if this was still a rectangle, right there would be my common corner. So I'm going to go from here to here and drag out. And there's that. Okay, remember, how do you know you're done with the feature? Have you told its location left to right, your location top to bottom, and the feature size? That's the 3 main things you have to tell. Sometimes you can do it in less than 3 dimensions. Sometimes it might take a note to help finish it. But in this case, we finished this with 2 dimensions. We know exactly where it's located at top to bottom, where it's located at side to side. And some people would say, well, that's also the size of the cut. So we're good. So the only other thing we need on this is the overall height and width because this is a single view. So again, we'll go back here, we'll click here, we'll drag out, and click here. Okay? And then we'll do the same thing for our width, here and here, drag up, and there. So that object is fully dimensioned. We've located every feature, left to right, top to bottom. We've gave it size. We've also done overall height and overall width since it's a single view. Now some people may say, why didn't you put this dimension over here, the 1 1/2? Drafting and engineering is one of the few places that we can use implied actions or inferred actions. So if we don't put the dimension over here, then the builder or the machinist will say, okay, if you didn't put that there, then obviously these are the same size. And that's the reason why we won't have to put it over here. Okay? So let's move on to the next one. The next one, very same thing like we said, across the top, we've got 3 parts. We'll only dimension 2 of them. I'm going to locate, using the linear command, where this cut is located at, left to right. And then I'm going to tell how big the cut is, because that's the actual action. So from here to here, and drag up. Okay? Now I need to tell how deep it is. Well, there's my common corner that I can work off of. I don't want to come over here and put the number. Work off the same corner. So I'm going to click here and here, using linear dimension again, pull out, and drop it right there. Pretty simple. Okay? Now for this piece, I'm going to locate it from the bottom up. So I'm going to go back into linear dimension, click here, and here. Again, I want these to line up, so I'm going to click there. And then I'm going to put in how wide the cut is. Again, click there. And see, there's the gap that we're going to leave out, so 4 parts. Now I need to know how deep this cut goes into the object. So pretend like you had a saw. How deep does it go in? So we'll drag down. Now notice it puts this number on the outside. We want to physically manipulate this. We're going to click on it. We're going to click on this grip, the blue grip, and we're going to drag it to the middle. And it will adjust. I can hit right click and it'll clean it up. I can hit right click again. Notice I'm still in the dimension, so I can hit escape to get out. That looks a lot cleaner. We don't really want this over here unless we just have to. Okay. Now this one, if you notice down here, it says use location for the angle. Location angle, I apologize. So location would be how far is it horizontally or vertically. I'm going to use horizontal because I've already got a number here. And line those two up. The reason why I put this one here instead of this one, the vertical, is because I like having my angle dimensions sort of out by themselves. Kind of like a leader telling what an object is. A leader is you point at something with an arrowhead and say, this is this big, like a hole. Okay? So, what I'll do now is I'll go into angular. I'm going to click this line and this line, so I'll get off the horizontal, drag out about the same distance as the others, and drop it in. So there's all my features. Located, size. Located, size. This one is location and size all together in 2. The only thing I need now is my overall height and width. I'll go back in, click here, and watch. I'll even cheat. I can come right here and line up with this one. So that works out pretty good. Then I'm going to go back in, I'm going to give the overall height, and I'll drag out and drop it there. Okay, so there's that one. This one says use location for angle. This is actually a very simple drawing. So all I do for location is click here and click here, drag up. Again, I'm going to just line it up to stay consistent. And then I'm going to click here and I'm going to click here and drag out. Now notice, this says 2.63. This is a red flag to a machinist. If they ever see it, because most time machinists work to 10,000ths of an inch, but if a layperson gives them a drawing, they may have this on there. 0.63, remember 0.625 is 5/8. 0.125 is 1/8. If they ever see 0.13 or 0.63, the red flag goes off in their head and they'll say, do they actually mean 5/8 or do they mean literally 0.63 inches? Because that's 5/1000ths bigger than 5/8. So they'll ask you that. So we are going to work to 2 decimal places. The computer naturally rounds it up when it gets to a 5. So we're going to double click on it. We're going to delete that text and we're going to type in 2.62 and then click off of it. And I'm going to right click to get out of the command, and there we go. It cleans it up. Okay? So that's all we have to do there. Now what we need to do, believe it or not, that's our feature. It's fully located both ways. All we need to do now is give overall width and overall height. This one is that simple. Nothing to it. Okay? This one. Now we've got arcs. We've got radius. Okay? So we need to take care of the hole. We need to take care of the radius. Well, the hole is actually very simple. All we're going to do here is we're going to use the diameter command, diameter dimension. We're going to click on it. And where are we going to put this dimension? Well, I'm going to tell you, we're actually going to put it over here. And there's a reason why I want it over here. I want it sort of out by itself. This is a leader. So the arrowhead has to touch what you're talking about. And it does point straight to the center, no matter where we put it. If I move this, that arrow will always point straight to the middle. We never want to bring it through a corner like that. We always want to try to stay at a fairly common angle. Okay? So again, I'll just drop it in right here again and leave it where we had it. I'm going to hit escape. Now we need to locate this hole. So that'll be linear dimensions again. The reason why I chose to put that over there is because I'm going to do my linear dimensions off of this corner, because nothing's happening off of this corner. And if you think, why can't I put it up here? Well, because this center line and this corner line up. See, look what happens when I hover over it. See? So we don't want to use that one. So I'm going to go linear from here to here and drag out, drop. I'm going to go linear, and all I'm doing is right-clicking to get back in my command and drag down. Location, size. We're done. Well, how about for an arc or a radius? Radius is a funky little command. When we click on it here and we use radius dimension and we click here, if you notice when I drag out, it wants to throw it way out here. It gets kind of weird on us. So here's where we're going to use a leader again. So the leader command, Find the center point, drag 45 degrees back through that center, and click. Okay. Now, make sure your cap lock is on, and we can start typing. At this point, we're going to type in R 1.25. That's what that radius was. Okay, I'm going to right click off of it. Now, let's say you didn't know what the radius was. Well, what you can do, you can use that radius command over there, or we can come in here and we can say measure our radius, and it'll tell us 1.25. Okay, you can do the same thing for a circle, but if we do it for a circle, it's going to give us radius. Don't forget to double it there. Notice it says radius then diameter underneath it, so it's helping you. Okay, so let's do this one down here. Very same process. So we're going to go leader, the midpoint of the arc, through the center point of the circle. And now on this one, it's R 1.00. Okay, enter. And again, if you're not sure, click on it and check, and it is a radius of 1 inch. Okay. The only thing we need now is our overall height and width. So we go back to linear dimension, click here, drag up. And notice something. Look what happened when I did that. Oh no. See how I've got my gap here, but I lost it here? That's a problem. So what we want to do, instead of doing that, we're going to use the edge of the center point. So we're going to say here to here and drag up. And that leaves our gap. Okay? That's the reason why these two lines have to be here, if it's a big enough arc. If it's a big enough arc. Okay? So we'll do the same thing horizontally. We'll click here, and click here, and drag out. And that one's fully dimensioned. Pretty simple. Okay? Remember, radius is location, location, size, all in one. That's all we need. For a hole, we need some more information. Okay? So let's go to this one. Notice something. On this one, the lines are missing. So be in the dimension layer, and let's go in and let's draw some lines. I'm going to hover here instead of starting. Notice it still says first point. I'm going to hover, drag out, and get my green line going. I'm going to say offset. Basically what I'm doing is I'm starting at first point a 1/16 of an inch off. Come over here and click at the end point. Now I'm going to grab it by its grip and drag back 1/16. That'll put that in the right place. I can do the exact same thing here, or I could use the mirror command, mirror that object, hit enter. My base point would be the center mark, and drag down at a 45 degree and click. Do I want to get rid of my source object? Notice that no is inside the less than or greater than sign, so all I have to hit is enter. There we go. And I'll need to do the very same thing down here. So again, I drag off 1/16, drag to the end, click on it, and drag back 1/16. Okay? Now, if you forget to do that, you can always draw it from here to here. Just click and click. But then I want to have to drag both endpoints a 1/16 toward the middle, which is not really a problem. Okay? And then hit escape. There we go. Okay? So there's our object. So now all we need to do is dimension it. Guess what? Look at this object. It's identical to this one. It's just bigger. So I'm going to let you dimension that one, okay? Just follow the rules for that one. So what if we've got something with a fully rounded end? Fully rounded ends, we don't give an overall dimension. We don't tell how long it is wherever the fully rounded end is. So what we do here is we're going to give a radius dimension. So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to see how this works. I'm going to go radius, and I'm going to click on this and drag it. Oh, look, this works. Cool. So I'm going to drop it in right there. So you always need to try it and see if it works, okay? On an outside edge, most of the time it does. On an inside edge, a lot of the times it doesn't, okay? Then what I need to give is how far that center point is from the squared edge. And I usually try to line these up so we can add them together. I always put these on the same side so they can be added together, okay? Well, what about this? There's another radius. Oh, careful. That's a hole. Think about it. It's a hole cut through it. So you have to tell somebody what size drill bit to go use. So we're going to use diameter here instead of radius. If it started life, or if the tool that you used deals with diameter, then you need to give diameter. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag out and place it. There we go. Good to go. Okay. The only thing really we've got left now is over here on this end. Where is that slot located? Linear. It's located down this far, 7/8. And then the slot itself is 1 1/4. Well, a lot of people say, well, now I need to dimension from here to here, right? No, because think about it. When we cut it with a saw or whatever, when we hit air, when we get to the hole, we're done. so we do not dimension from here to here, okay? We don't give the overall height of this object because the radius lets us know that this is a 3-inch arc, so it's a 3-inch piece. That object is fully dimensioned. That's simple. Okay, so now, this one, be careful. This one has a fully rounded end, but then it's got square edges here and here with a fillet, a rounded off corner. Okay, this is actually a fillet and this is actually a round, but AutoCAD calls them both fillets. A round is an outside curved edge, a fillet is an inside curved edge. Okay, so let's get started on it. Let's go back in and do radius again. Let's click on radius, click on this one and drag out. And we could put the note typical right here because this one and this one are the same size. Or we can just go ahead and dimension this one. This is not being redundant because they sort of offline and stuff. But this will work fine for this one. Okay? But like I said, we could come in here, instead of doing this note, what we could do is we could come in here and double click on our note and out behind it. So if you'll hit the end command, notice I still keep my R.94. I'll put a space and put TYP period. And then click off of it. So that would take care of it, and I wouldn't have to have that note there if I didn't want it. So either way, I'm good with it, okay? For the time being, I'm going to leave both of them on there. So how about the two holes? Well, they are the same size. So on this one, we're going to use diameter. We're going to drag out. And what we're going to do here, people say, well, I'll use typical. Well, if we have holes, how about that? We don't use the term typical a lot of times. What we'll use is we'll give a quantity. You can use typical. It's okay. It's actually acceptable. But here we'll just use a quantity. So in front of the symbol and the number, we'll go 2x and put a space. And then click off of it. So that means that's a quantity of 2 with a diameter of 0.75. So that takes care of both of those. Pretty easy. So because this is a radius, let's go back into linear, fully rounded in there. We're going to go to here and drag up. I'm going to line it up with this. And we have to do the exact same thing here and drag out so we can add these two up. Okay? The only thing we've got left are these two radii here. So this one's pretty easy. Now remember, this is an interior radius, so we're going to have to use leader on this one. Click. And look what happened. I missed. So let's go back in. Let's locate that center point there. That time I got it. Click and drag out. And this is R. And this is one that I actually forgot the radius on. So I'm just going to leave it R for the time being. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this. It's a 1/2 inch. Now I can double click on the R. See what I've got here? Go to end on the keyboard and then type in 0.50. So if you forget, you can just kind of use that as a holding place. Well, how about this one? Hey, that's an outside curve. So I'm going to use just the radius command here. Click on it, drag out. Notice what I'm doing. I'm going to drop this dimension in. I am not going to let it go through that line right there because that would make it look funny if we did. We want to miss that corner. So I'm going to place it right there. That one's fully dimensioned. We've covered all our features and we've given our sizes. Remember, these two add up for the overall width. These two add up for the overall height. Okay? How about if it's fully rounded again on each end? So this was one end. This is kind of a weird shape. This one's fully rounded on both ends. Well, when we've got this, what we can do is now we can go radius, drop it in, radius, and I like to come over here and hover and drag across so they're on the same plane. Click and drop it in, and then go linear between them. Top of the arc, drag up, line up with that. So those three numbers added together gives us our overall width. Okay? The only thing we have left now at this point is the diameters. So again, I'm going to click and drag down. Go back into diameter, click and drag down. And that object is fully dimensioned. Pretty easy. The last one is this one. Now this one looks daunting, doesn't it? But it's really not, because all of these holes are the exact same size. So again, we can either use typical or we can use quantity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 of them. So we can use 8x in the size, or we can use the note typical out behind it. Either one will be fine. Let's deal with that first. So let's click here and drag out. Drop our note. So those are 1 1/4 inches in diameter. Now, like I said, we can either put an 8x in front or typical out behind. Either one is fine. Okay? I'm going to do the 8x this time just for the fun of it. Okay? So either one you want to use is okay with me. So 8x in space. Remember, don't highlight this and get rid of it. Don't hit the delete key. Just start typing in front of it. If you want to type behind it, hit the end key on your keyboard. Okay? So there we go. Now, how far are they located apart? We don't do dimensions. What we do is angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to say angular, and I'm going to click on this line, and I'm going to drag up and drop it in. Now notice it put gaps. I really don't want those gaps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, grab the grip, and drag it down to the intersection. Same thing here. Okay? So there. Now the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to escape. I'm going to double click on this and get my number. Now here's where I'm going to hit end. I'm going to hit the enter key and get me a new line of text. TYP period. And then I'm going to click off of it. So that tells them that these are all 45 degrees apart. Pretty simple, right? The only other thing we need to do is locate where all these holes are at around the circle. This center line is what we need. So what I'll do here is I'm going to click, I'm going to go to diameter, I'm going to click here and I'm going to drag out. Notice I put all these together. So that's a 6-inch diameter center line. I need to tell somebody this is a center line. I can do that one of two ways. I can double click on it and go to end and type in center line, like that. I can do that. The other thing that I can do, and this is a little old-fashioned, but I kind of like this. We can go to single line text, which is the one with the line under it. I'm going to sort of line up with the bottom of the 0 right here. Notice I don't get really close to it. I'm going to click. My angle for text is 0. That means it's going to do it out to the right, so I'm going to hit enter. Now I can start typing. I'm going to do the letter C and enter, and I'm going to do the letter L. And now I'm not going to hit enter. I'm just going to click off of it. Now I'm going to right-click and go cancel. Okay? So I've got two separate letters here. The symbol for center line is an overlapping C and L. So I click on L, drag it up, and do that. That means the exact same thing. Now, if I got it too far away, I may want to back it up a little bit. Okay? So either one works fine. If you like the symbol for center line, that's great. If you don't like the symbol for center line, then again, we can double click here, hit the end on the keyboard, do a space, and type in center line. Either one will work fine. Okay? So we've taken care of all the holes. The little holes. What else do we need to do? Well, how about the big hole in the middle? Diameter, click, drag out. Let's put it down here. And lastly, how big is the overall object? I'm going to click over here this time. I'm going to put this by itself so it's visible. Okay? And that is an 8-inch diameter piece. Okay? That's all there is to it. So at that point, there's all those objects fully dimensioned. I hope this helps. Be sure and get your work done. Have a great day.